Oh, for crying out loud! Sorry, I'm just having some password trouble with the chat. I don't get it. I don't understand. I was having trouble with the verifying I'm not a robot. Well, that was exciting. That was a cube wipe or something. I don't know. Hey, hello. Hello, hope you can hear me okay. Hello out there. This evening is the idea. Oh, I'm unusually in a bit of a mess. Is that I had a nice performance the other day, the other night, Thursday night, electronic music open mic night. Hope you can hear me all right. I got everything wrong. All professionals here. What was I saying? Yeah, so I had this performance on Thursday night at the Electronic Mic Open Mic Night in Norwich, the EMOM, and it was good. It was great. I had a good time. I had a very good time. I then, on the next day, the Friday, captured sort of the performance of what I did on the rig, more or less. I mean, it was new every time. That's part of the joy of it. And put that up on the internet. People seem to like it. So I thought, right, before I take all this apart, because I'm inevitably going to be doing so, because I have other things to do, I thought I would run through the patch. And I thought I could do that. I could do that methodically with lots of different cameras and do it and then spend the rest of the day editing it down, etc., etc. Or I thought I could cheat, do it the quick way, have a beer and do it in a live stream. So this is what I'm doing. So you're very welcome to this. I hope this might be helpful or interesting. I don't know. I'm just going to go through the patch and talk about it in whatever way seems to appeal. You're very welcome to ask questions in the chat. We should be out there on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and other places. So who knows, wherever you are, but feel free to contribute and ask questions if you like. And there is a special for this evening, which is that this is going to be the first reveal of my very own module. Oh yes, it is. Would you believe? I can't believe it. Can't believe we're actually talking about it. It's not out. It's not ready yet. It's just purely that I use one of the prototypes in the patch, and so kind of it's having to spill out a little bit. So I will talk about it briefly, not in a huge amount of depth, because there's plenty more to come for that. And it's not anything. It's not anything spectacular. It's just a good, simple, and was very useful in this particular patch. It is, as Ken so rightly says, it is my own clone of the disting, with every parameter revealed into a single one knob per function. That's what it is. No, there wasn't a bloody disting in the patch, Ken. What business would I have if I see? The thing is, if you play live with a disting, the cables will just jump out just because of the vibe of the place, because the cables are already they're going to throw themselves out at any moment. And within a performance situation, distings just eject cables. That's what they do. They glow and then boom, that cable's gone. And then you've then got to find the algorithm. How the heck are you going to do that? Because the lights on the front are good. You'll be able to see those, but you won't be able to see the crib sheet that you inevitably have to bring up in order to find out which algorithm it is you need and which combination of knobs you press in order to actually move algorithms as opposed to move a parameter. So no, distings for me are not performance friendly. Anyway, it's lovely to have a few of you here. That's great. You're very, very welcome. It's so, you know, it's nice. It's really nice. I'm already quite throaty, so I think I'll try to find my bottle opener. Which I'm also not prepared for. Why is it that the time you have before a live stream is just slightly less than the time that you need? Whatever it is time you start, you're never quite ready. I'm never quite ready. Now I had a bottle opener. I deliberately didn't bring one over because I found the one I've got in the shed. And now I've lost it. Where did I put it? Because these aren't going to screw up, are they? Ugh. All right, I'm going to have to improvise. What did I do with it? God darn it. There. Found it. Okay. Good. Put that up so I can see that I am actually broadcasting. Oh yes. Yes I am. That's good. Okay, right, where was I? Talking nonsense. Good. Right, so yeah, I need one here, don't I? I could be using a molten hole, of course, but I'll just end up pouring beer into it. I love your commitment, man over in Twitch. That's awesome. What? No, Kevin, you're completely wrong. It's really interesting how most people don't seem to know about the Sound Machines LS1. It's a great little module. It's very, very useful. I've used it in lots of different ways, and I can never quite remember how exactly you're supposed to use it, but it works nonetheless. But I'm going to go. The whole point is I'm going to go through all of that, so that's exciting, isn't it? So what should we do? First, let me just give you a quick blast of the patch, and then I'll work through it through the mixer. Maybe that's the best way to do it. So let's just check that you can hear this all right. So I've got a bit of that coming up. I want you to be able to hear my voice at the same time as well. So I might need to turn it up over here so I can hear it. So there's a bit of that. And then there's a bit of that. And then there's a bit of this. Oh, I know what I haven't done. There's various things that reset themselves when I turn the machine off. Synth a bit quiet? Okay. No, I've never tried anything from Slappy Engineering. Is that a bit better? Can you still hear me okay? Sounds good, okay. I then had this sound was changed for another sound, which is this one that I used the thing on. Change it back. And then of course we had the drums. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was all just slightly completely off. As it is now. an interesting thing, this whole not quite being in time vibe. Because people will tell me why that is and what I need to do about it, and I've never gotten around to it really. You need to reset. Essentially you need a master reset which resets all of the clocks everywhere. But the way I generally do it is I pull this one out here and then plug it back in again. There you go, see I'm in it now. Anyway, I don't got to get started in all that again. So what I'm going to do, I'll bring the camera in a bit. So I'm not just going to sit here. I will try to get you in and close on various things to try to show you what's going on. Well, yeah, that's it really. That's the idea. That's the purpose. It's nice to have a live stream with a proper purpose. You'll just excuse me while I do a little bit of camera adjustments. And hopefully I don't accidentally pull everything out. So let me bring you over here a little bit like that. Am I going to have to put you taller? No, I think I'll be alright. Oh, I can't turn that. At least I can. I can turn that around. Right down here. So our first little friend here, which you can just about see in there. Sorry about the zoom thing. It's just a zoom. It allows me to focus. Is this a Descartes voice? So the Ethereal stuff is coming from this. I was very much inspired by a video I saw very recently by someone called Cinematic Laboratory, I think it was. And they did a lovely, just a gorgeous video on the Descartes voice and the Rachel. I do have a Rachel. I've never really worked it out. It's over here somewhere. I've never worked it out yet, but it's really interesting seeing somebody else use it. So inspired by that, I decided to take out my entire Bafako noise plethora and Percussion section, which I'm normally using for a bit of percussion, and replace it with the Descartes voice and the Aurora. The Aurora, remember that? We had that that turned up just the other day. So I put those two together just to think that might be quite interesting. And so what I've got is, I've got my fabulous, sorry, there's just cables, bloody cables everywhere. What was this? Whose idea was it to use cables? So we've got this fella here, which is the Mosaic 1U Quantizer. Now what I like about this little fella here, other than the fact that it's 1U, and that's just interesting because it's different, because I created this little 1U panel within my set, which is using the TubeTech 6 sequencer, which I don't tend to use, sadly. I haven't quite got into that yet. But the idea was to have that and this Quantizer, because it's also an arpeggiator, and that's what I use it for, and I think that's fantastic. And then beneath it I've got 3 molten holes for no real reason, but I do use them because it's the way that I power that floating module that I sometimes do in reviews. So using the Quantizer here, I set it up in ARP mode and just put in the same notes as I'm using on the Quantizer in the rest of the case. And this is stepping through on a nice slow clock through the Descartes voice. Now I haven't done anything particularly clever with this. I'm just using a pitch and gate going in, which is triggered because this is a whole voice, so that triggers the envelope on the VCA. I've just got both the sine wave and the filtered track coming through. And really I played with the filter. Got them all on long releases. Not that one, it's these two. And I've got the internal LFO here, just going into the filter a little bit. So you can hear that move, and then I would push into it a little bit every now and again. That is then routing through the Aurora, which is here. Now this, we did have a little bit of a play with it, so I haven't exactly mastered it as yet. But essentially you've got warp, which gives you a pitch. You know, it's very clouds-like, I think. And I'm pretty sure that when I hit green, that's when it's no longer messing with the pitch. That seems to sound right. So I did try using that a little bit in the performance. I didn't do it when I captured it because I'm not quite sure whether it was any good in that respect. Al, the Decals voice is just a mono synth. It's just a single voice. It's a single voice card from the Decals Dream is the idea. You have these other controls I haven't really played with. You've got a mix control. That one I understand. So you can get it completely dry. I just had, I don't know, something interesting going in. So that's that at the moment, nothing more intense than that. And then that's gone up to the black stereo delay here. That's simple. Then coming to the mixer in stereo, so you've got a good bit of stereo something going on, I think. That's it. That's layer number one, if you like. Any questions while I have a bit more beer? Maybe I'll just talk about the Quantizer while I'm thinking about it. So here is a tenderfoot, forget, a tenderfoot quad quantizer. Very, very useful module. I haven't gotten to the bottom of this one either, but the superficial way that I use it is I dial in a particular, I guess this is a chord or a scale, which is a bit of a, it's kind of a blues scale, C blues scale I suppose. It doesn't sound that way particularly, but it's kind of what it is. Switch to dry. I did that a moment ago. There's dry again. So with the quantizer, a quad quantizer, what you have is a single quantization setting. And then I can have up to 4 sources going through it and out of it being quantized to that same scale. And I set that scale to the ARP here, so I didn't need to use the Decals voice with the quantizer, but I could then use the quantizer to run in the bassline, the random notes and the other bits and pieces all running through this, knowing that I'd be hitting more or less the same scale. So yes, the Qubit Aurora, they've just released a new firmware for it. That is true, which is, I think, just a reverb. So I will be checking that out at some point. At the moment it's a weird kind of granular spectral tail generator or something. And this is what happens when I bring it back in. So I'm slightly off pitch now. There we go. Why should I have an F sharp in a blues scale? I've got C, E flat, F, G, B flat. Not enough of a blues scale for you, Kev? Okay, enough of that. Enough of that nonsense. Right, so the next thing then is the running bass line. And this is running from, look at my computer stuff up here. So simply the Performance VCO, the filter, which I believe is just out now, they pair brilliantly together as you expect them to. The only slight thing I would say is that when going to change the filter and you're not properly looking, it's very easy to accidentally reach for this knob rather than this one, but it doesn't really matter. So I think I started it with a bit low, so it's just bringing in a little bit of rhythm. And it's nice, and you can leave it sort of under control and then push the resonance up, which is quite nice. Or you can flick the switch. Oh, it went slightly odd there. It's quite interesting. Oh look, someone over on TikTok's going to get me a whole load of subscribers. That's nice. Yeah, okay, so this is perhaps where my problem was coming from. I talked about this a little bit in the video, in the description of the video, where I was having this strange thing where the filter, this line seemed to be really hooked in, and then it sort of wasn't, and then it was hooked in again. But there's something that goes on when I push that resonance that seems to make it fall over slightly and sort of run behind itself. That's interesting. So that's going to require a little bit of further investigation as to what that's about, but you can also flick the switch, which makes it nastier. Seems to be in that mode that it doesn't like it quite so much. Interesting. Alright, I'll have to look into that a bit, but maybe that's where my slight offset was coming from. But anyway, there's loads of fun to be had with it. But in order to give it a further bit of beat, I also ran it through the punk here, which is a distortion from feedback modular, where I just cranked up this one. This seemed to be really nice. That's with nothing. I think that's dry. I blended in. It's quite a nice distortion. So that's not the clip thing here. I could have added that as well. But that's such a delicious sound. You can play with that all day. The sequence is being run by the 8-step, which is down here. Currently my favourite sequencer from Wavephonics. And it's just 8 steps. It's going through that quantizer, so it's been pulled into the steps over on the quantizer. But otherwise, Well, that sounds bad now. I think that sounds about right. So just simple 8 steps being clocked from my clocks coming out of the varigate down over here. And that's running the show. And then back up to here. Yeah, so at this point I'm going to mention this, right? The Thaco's going to kill me. But it's in the patch, man. I don't know what else to do. It's in the patch, so I'm going to talk about it just a little bit. And what this is doing, it's called the Molten Motion Meter, I think. And this is essentially taking hold of an LFO. It's just an attenuator. It's nothing clever. It's really clever, but it's not really clever. And so this knob here is just bringing that LFO in, which is patched to the cutoff, the second cutoff input here. So every now and again, as we were going along, I could dial that in very simply on a nice big knob and see what was going on, rather than trying to plug it in here or change an attenuator elsewhere. So essentially, this motion meter is acting as an attenuator. But it also, the metering bit is that it shows you what the LFO is going into. I'll just turn this off for a minute just so you can see it. So I've got an LFO going in from down here, down at DivKids. So if I slow that down. Now what this allows me to do, the idea behind it, the concept if you like, is that I just want to visualize voltage. I want to visualize voltage while I'm at it. Why can't I attenuate it? So that's the basic idea of this. It will do a little bit more than that. Because it will also it can invert CV and it can also measure audio, so I can have it as like a 3-channel metering system for audio or for CV. Very, very simple, and it works. It just does the job. So I've just got one going in there, and that's just doing that. I think haven't I got 3 plugged in somewhere that are doing other things, so they're all going and doing their thing. I can't remember. Is that audio going in there? What is that audio? I don't remember. Anyway, this is a prototype. It's not finished. It doesn't quite work entirely as expected, but the basic idea is there. And when it's ready, which will hopefully be, after the summer, I think, I'll be able to tell you all about it in far more detail. But just there you go. There's a little sneak preview. The knobs, these are sort of special edition knobs that I was trying out. Otherwise the knobs will be black probably. But we're just finishing off what we want the metering to do exactly, and whether they can be normalized or not. Little things like that. There's lots of things to talk about. But it's very, very busy out there, so it's taken quite a while to come. Yeah, it's come from Knobs. Yes, well, very well pointed out. Well, I might provide the orange knobs to Patreons, for instance, to patrons. They may be a special limited edition of the orange knobs. We shall see. The thing about them is, I mean, they're nice. It's just they stand a little bit proud, and I'm not entirely sure whether that's entirely pleasing, but they are sparkly, and in the case, they look bloody awesome. So yeah, that's that. So, don't tell anybody about it. This is just between you and me, and I'll make a big fuss about it when it comes along, all right? And yes, it's with Thaco, as you can probably tell by the colouring at the bottom and the banana nut, what these are called, whatever those are called. So okay, so that's that bit. That's that bit done. So then I have this bit, which is nice. I was really pleased with it. So this is coming from the Arno, which is over here, through the J filter. So this is nice. This also highlights the quart here. This is also from Nanotechnologies, the people who do the Honor oscillator. This is the quart, which is 4 envelopes, which is brilliant. And they're just rise 4 envelopes, which is gorgeous. That's all I really ever want. This is the only envelopes I really want. It's just a rise and a fall, which gives me a bleep of a certain sound and a filter, you know, a filter bloop. That's all I want. And I've got 2 of them running into the Look Mum No Computer and 2 of them running into the Jove. So controlling both the filter bit that's the filter one, I think, and that's the length of the actual note. Going through the VCA, yes. So where are the notes coming from? They're coming through the Quantizer. Back down at the Quantizer, here we go. So the tune for this is coming out of the Turing machine. This is clocked slowly, so I've got my clock I put into a malt down here at the bottom. Do let me know if I'm going far too fast. I'm just scattering about, I don't know. You see that a little bit? So I've got the clock coming out of the variegate, which is a sequencer thing here, which I use a little bit. That's going into a malt here, which is giving me 9 clock outputs if I want them. One of those is going into a clock divider, which is giving me a slower version of that clock. It divides it down into slower versions, and one of those is clocking the Turing machine. Right, still with me? Good, yeah, good. Right, back up here then. So in the Turing machine here, it's just coming up in response to that slow clock. It's coming up with notes, and that voltage, the voltages, it doesn't go with notes, it comes with voltages, and the voltages are being pumped through the Quantizer and so being pulled in to that same scale, and that scale is being run to the Honor, and so that's what we're getting. Now it's not moving very far, the notes aren't moving very far. I didn't have time to really look into that. It might be something to do with one setting or another, but there only seems to be a few notes, and sometimes I tend to get really stuck on one particular note. So throughout the performance I played with this scale knob here, which kind of sort of tilted it up or tilted it down depending on where I sent it to. So if it tend to get stuck on a note, I could like turn the scale up and then it would move about again. Yeah, it's not terribly exciting, but what was nice about it was that it just cut in at the top, like that, and gave it something nice to do. Now the triggering is not done actually by the pulse output. Pulse is plugged in. Where's that plugged into? It's plugged into there, and that is plugged into something else. But that's not what's running it. Oh yeah, no, the pulse is running, the pulse from the Turing machine is running the envelope of the VCA, which is this bit here, which you can't see. Just over on the VCA, the pulse from the Turing machine is triggering that. But the filter, which is happening much more often, I'm using the variegate for that. Now this is where one of those occasions where the variegate just keeps being useful. Because as a sequencer, it's a bit hard work and is prone to messing you about because you forget which channel you're on and you press the wrong thing and it all ends up being a bit of a mess. But it just makes itself so useful so often that it just stays in my rack. So first of all, it's got a good clock in it, so I use that. It's then got, I can use each of these outputs here, 4 channels. I can use them either all as gate, all as CV, or 2 and 2. Tend to leave it for 2 and 2. So I could take out a channel of modulation of 8 notes or whatever, 8 bits of voltage, throw that into something. But what I used was on channel 4, I used the probability to give me just a bunch of gates. And what's nice about the probability is that it doesn't always happen, so you get this really good variation. So to start with, I had 1 up, I think. So there you go. Let me turn that up a little bit. And that's quite nice. But if you just pull up some of the sliders a little bit, they will often fire. So it's on a probability basis. So 100% I stick it all the way across, and then they always fire. If you stick it somewhere in the middle, offset them a little bit, it becomes occasional, and that gives them a much more interesting, evolving, changing, theatrical nature. Which is really nice. It's a really nice, useful, compact, colourful, you know, pretty module that can really confuse you given the opportunity, which is why I won't use it as a sequencer by itself. It's just really useful for stepping in and doing something interesting rather than depending my whole set on it. That's how I look at that. Now, Dan at DPW sent me this switch module through, which I looked at and went, what's that about? I don't quite really know. And I've ignored it for a bit, but then I thought I wanted to do something where I changed the sound that's being used during the performance. And I thought, well, I can either mute something out and then bring something else in, but then you kind of need two things going on. So where was my thinking? I don't know. So I was thinking along the lines, well, maybe I could switch between having one sequence running two different things and then switch between them. That might be interesting. But I ended up not doing that. Or did I? No, I don't think I did do that. I've got two things plugged in. I can't exactly remember why. But the main thing that I did was that I wanted to use the delay. So the delay, which is down here. Freaking complicated can this get? I thought this was going to be easy. It's getting really complicated. So I'm using this frequency central delay down here. Very simple. It's called the stasis leak. I still need to put the LED in the right way around yet. I haven't finished. I haven't gotten around to repairing it. But it's just running a simple delay. And I don't have another one. So I wanted to run two things through this, or rather keep the delay going on both of these things. So I used the switch to have two inputs that then get switched to a single output. Up here, I'm pointing at this thing up here, look. Look, stay with me, camera. And so all I do, I've got it latched, so it latches on and off, because you can do it as a momentary thing. There you go, there's something else there. If you latch it, I've now changed into something else, while the other thing still dies away, which is brilliant. But I've now got the pizza, which is here. The pizza going in. So what am I doing? Everyone's been very interested in the LS1 over here, so let me show you what's going on. So down here, I've got this little strip called the LS1 from Sound Machines, and it's just a touch strip. There's settings you can put on the back to dictate the range, whether it's a massive range or a small range. I can't remember if this is small or massive, don't really remember. But essentially this is sending out a voltage, which is then going through the quantizer, the same quad quantizer. So all it does is run through those notes, you know, so I'm not playing anything clever, I'm just running through that scale. That scale is going to the pizza. Now as it's set at the moment, it's set to return to like a low value when I release my fingers. So what I did, I changed it to a different mode by turning this light on down here, which you can't quite see, this light on here. And now it stays. And that's really nice. So it gives me a little bit of interaction, a bit of randomness, a bit of a whittle, make it sound like I'm performing. You can also record these movements, but I can't remember how, but you can, but I didn't. I just played it live. So this is then going into the pizza, up here. Which I most certainly have not got to the bottom of in any way, shape or form. But there's a couple of things you can do that do interesting things. You've got the wave shaping here, the wave folding. So you can start off with something quite, turn that up a little something quite mellow. Then you can fold it a little bit. And we get sort of organy. It's nice. Or the other way. So you can do something, like I say, nice and mellow and in the background, and then just give it an edge. It's really nice. There's some really nice tones in there. Then there's some nastier tones if you do the FM index thing here. And then you can just find that sweetness again in the middle. So that was it. That's what I did with that. Very simple. So in order just to effect a change, I hit the switch to go from the Honor and the Jove. Hit the switch. Then through exactly the same delay path, so the delay from the Honor is still going on, I could throw this in with my little finger doing the business. I thought that was really nice. I was really pleased with how that all came together, and I was very pleased I was able to use Dan's switch. That made me happy. And I understand what that's doing now. For some reason that really boggled me. I couldn't work out what is that about, but now I get it. It's either 1 into 2 or 2 into 1. Signal paths. Okay, any questions at this point? Because all we've got left now is the percussion, which we'll go to in a second. But just while I take another swig of beer, please do throw in any questions you've got on those bits. And I'll be happy to answer them. Oh, no, it's Cobra. See me? Cobra. Sponsored by Cobra. I wish. An FM stylophone. Yeah, it is a bit like that. It is a bit like that. Yeah, but I'm really just playing with the edges of it, because FM is like one of those things I don't love particularly, but within it I love the movement through FM rather than the actual tones themselves. But the wave shaping here is just brilliant. The wave shaping is really nice. There's lots of other things it does. There's different things you can do with ring modulation and other bits and pieces, but it's a complicated and quite intense module that I am supposed to be writing a proper what's it called, review of. Yeah, that's the word. Hey look, Sam's just popped in. Cool thing about the resonance on the filter, yeah, when you push the resonance it causes it to push the lower or higher octave harmonics up. That's why it's funky. See, that's what I like about the filter sound. There's no apologies for it. It just is what it is and does what it does. So sometimes that is a little bit weird. It's purely being aware of it, I think, is the key. Because it's like, because I recorded it, did this performance, recorded it to tape to my open reel, and then I was playing it back and I'm going, that's not right. I'm sure when I sat outside recording it, capturing it, I was in the groove, I was nodding away and absolutely loving it, and then playing it back and going, but that's not right, that's not in. But it's right that it's not, it goes out when you push that resonance up, which is really interesting, you know. And it's weird, it does funny things to your head when you're thinking, well, that's not in, then it's out, and then it's back in again, and how did that happen? So, you know, it's just fascinating. But that is really interesting, because it is a very unruly filter, but it has this, you know, this life to it, which is just fabulous, just fantastic. Thanks for that, mate. I appreciate the input. Good to know that I'm not just going completely mad. That's always nice. Do I have a modular grid link? No, I do. I don't know where that is at the minute. I will try to post it, but not to this particular setup. excuse me, I have one to a slightly earlier version. Hey, look, I could probably do that. Why don't I do that right now, like being a proper host and that? But, you know, trying to keep a modular grid thing up to date all the time is such a faff. So, what am I looking for? Modular grid. Modular grid. Because my rack is changing all the time. Flipping changing all the time. So I don't have one that's the same all the time. So where are we? Where are my racks? How do I get to that again? Does anybody know? My modular, is that the word I'm after? Yeah, okay. So it's down here somewhere. That's a basic synth voice. Basic synth voice. Edit. Show. Switch. Okay, here we go. Continuing evolution. Expanded to 2 rows. Rack brute pair. That's got to be it. Yeah, okay, so this is it as close as you'll get at the moment. One of the things about modular grid is you can't stick 1U stuff in to a space where it's 3U, which is what I've done. So it's a bit of a mess, but hey, you asked. There you are. I hope that's useful. Good, right, okay, in that case, I will, let's have a look at the percussion side of things. So the percussion is mostly being run by this fella down here. So this combination of 2 modules I've got, I'm just going to come along a little bit. Bring this up over here. In fact, 3 modules. I got this thing going, really useful. There we go, a bit like that. Oh, a bit like that. So, I have these 3 things in combination. I've got the Allen Synthesis EuroPi running the Consequence firmware. The Consequence firmware is a bit like, yes, Kevin, I do still like the polycinematic. It's not in this particular patch. What is it? Yeah, running the Consequence firmware, which essentially acts, I think, a bit like grids, a bit like the Moodle Instruments grids. So what that means is I've got a whole bunch of drum patterns in here, which I can change and swap between. It's got 6 outputs, so potentially 6 channels of percussion, I think. I'm not sure. I've only ever used 3. And it also has this knob, which brings in a fill, which is just bloody useful. So bloody useful. I can't believe it. So it's a very useful way of, rather than having kind of a dead beat going through that you just turn on and off, I've got a dead beat. But then I can add this variation and bring that back out again, which is a lovely, lovely feature without me having to completely reprogram a drum machine. So it's just simple, it's there, and it works, and it gives me this much. So that's my main pattern. Now I keep meaning to have a look at patterns and write some of my own. So it's got a whole load of stuff in here, but I find only about 3 of them are actually useful for what I want to do. So there's some good stuff in there, there's some bad stuff in there. But essentially this is techno. Yeah, this is techno. So that's what I want. So I have those 3 channels, just a kick, snare and a hi-hat going through the DivKid moots, which is just the easiest way to control the on and off of those drums. I could dial to a different pattern that doesn't have the hi-hat in. Thank you, the old cockerel's going for it this evening. You know, I could do that, but actually just muting it out is much easier. The other problem I have is because I could mute out the drum source, the drum sound source, but there's actually 2 of those, and that makes that more difficult. One of them I can't mute, which I'll explain in a moment. So did you get the idea of that? It's also momentary, the mutes, DivKid mutes. Really nice. It's a lovely little module actually. Now the snare and the interesting hi-hat, and it is an interesting hi-hat. I don't know why it's that interesting, but it really is. Those are coming from the Fasalunar Vega, which is here. Now, this is an interesting little module that I, again, have only scratched the surface of. And I don't know, it's a bit of a trait that I have, in that I get hold of a nicely complicated module, find one thing it does that I like, and just keep doing that, and don't get any deeper with it. But I intend to get deeper with this fella. This, as my understanding goes, it has 4 different drum sounds. What pie is in it? Oh, I don't know. Blackcurrant, I think. So it has 4 different channels. It's a digital percussion sound source, and you've got a couple of parameters that you can change, all these lovely light up things. But as soon as I start touching anything, it all goes sort of a bit wrong. I don't know, I don't know what I'm doing well enough, so I need to sit down with the manual and work that one out. But what it is giving me that I really like is this snare. So that's this one here seems to be flashing, so I could select that and turn a knob and see what happens. Not a lot on that particular one. Try this one. Nothing at all. Now it may be that I'm not actually selected on that one. Maybe I'm trying to edit that one. So if I do that, will that make a difference? Yeah, definitely. So there's something going on there. Not there, but like I say, I don't know what I'm doing. But as far as snares go, I like it. It's perhaps a little long, but that's fine. It's really good, it's useful, I'm liking it. But perhaps even better is this fella, which is the hi-hat. And it's all it's getting is a trigger, but it sounds really human. It sounds really like there's some variation and some difference going on in there, which I can't explain. I've no idea why it's doing that. But it's good. I really like it. But there's a lot more to explore in this, which I will do at some point. Now I can, of course, use, there's a kick drum I could use. So I could take out, what's doing the kick? That one. No, I'm doing it from here, this one. Plug that into number 1. No. No, that's not liking that. Evidently I haven't found a kick drum in there yet. Maybe it doesn't have one. I don't know. Like I say, I need to investigate it more than that. But it's essentially a digital drum voice that has this fantastic hi-hat. Got a snare that I like. So that's all good, with a lot more other stuff going on here which I have yet to explore. So the kick drum then, where's that from? Well, that is from Cocaine over here, which I'm still very much enjoying. Cocaine from Modular, this fella. So this, what's great about this is that it's a 909 style kick, which is kind of good anywhere really. You've got lots of options for drive, clickiness, decay, punch, tuning. So it's a good sounding kick that you can use in all sorts of situations. But its special sauce is that it creates this side chain, so that the rest of your mix that's coming through gets side chained. So if I turn this down, you can still hear it being compressed, yeah? But I tend to find that subtly is enough. And it's certainly the best sounding kick I've ever had in my stuff. So I'm quite happy to continue with this. What would have been beautiful would be if they had just a single input here so you can route a different kick in. That would have been great. So you could bypass the drum voice with your own kick. But there's no facility to do that, so you either have to use the kick that's in here or have a whole other side chaining thing going on somewhere else. They also have spectral side chaining, so rather than dipping like that, it does something else, which is not quite so pulling down, it's more to do with frequencies. But I quite like the regular version. The other downside of this is that your mix is going through here and your level control on the kick is here. So it's not set as part of your mix from your mixer. And that's a little bit frustrating. So when you decide, oh, I've got to turn this down, and suddenly your kick's far too loud, or I've got to turn this so that, and then you've lost your kick. You've just got to be aware of it and be able to make a little change when you need to. I think that's it. Is that it? I think that's it. Nothing else going on. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. I'll bring that back over here. We can finish my beer and chat. I wasn't planning on doing a long jam or anything. I think you know, you can go and check out the other video on that. This is now going to be taken apart. We can have a little chat about that while I finish my beer and see how we're doing. So any questions, anything else you'd like to see or ask about while we're here, just pop it in the comments. So the kick ain is the end of the chain, and then to mix. What? No, the kick ain is the end of the chain, and then it goes to speakers. It goes to sound, not to mix. I'm mixing beforehand on this 6-channel mixer here. Everything else is mixed here. The mix of this is going out into the kick ain, which is adding the kick in the side, and then that's all going to the speakers, to the big outside world. That's how that is, if that's what you meant. Not entirely sure if that's what you meant. Yeah, the timbral sculpture does look very good indeed. Zero or Pico Pi can... what are we talking about? Oh, the EuroPi. I don't remember. I'm sorry. If you look for the Alan synthesis, Alan with an EN, synthesis EuroPi, it will tell you all about it. Yeah, this geezer who did the Consequencer sent that to me, and it's very, very useful. And it's another thing I could do with getting into at some point, because it would be good if I could just put in a handful of patterns that I use and get rid of all the rest, so it's much easier to select them. That would be helpful. What have I got in my hair? Crikey. Can you alter the scale in either Quantizer with CV? Well, I had a look into that, because I mean, I put this patch together in a couple of hours. I started off for the evening. It was about 7 o'clock, 7:30. I had to be there. About 3 o'clock, I decided to put the Deckar's Dream in and started taking things about. I had to rearrange a whole load of stuff, which also brought in the motion meter, brought in the switch, the voice and the Aurora, and I had to shuffle everything about. I quite like the drums being over here, but it's all going to change again, very sadly. I need a ruler that tells you what HP is of anything. Is 3U any particular HP? Do you know what I mean? So I can use that to measure HP. Looks like, oh, this is 28, isn't it? It's 28. Is it 28? 24. 24. 24. That's not going to fit in there, is it? Oh, I don't know. It might do with that. Yeah. Anyway, 12 minutes. So, what was I saying? Yes, altering the scale. So yes, what I was saying was that I had a look at the Quantizer, because it has this transpose input here, but I couldn't really get it to do anything that was really particularly helpful. So in order to show you that, what I could do is I could turn this bit on. That's not very exciting, is it? So if I make that faster, where's the clock? That one. Oh, that's helping. Alright, no, don't do that. Use this one. Okay, let's use this one. That's going through the same Quantizer. All over the place now. It doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do is take the CV, which is going into there, from the LS1. I plug that into transpose on the quad Quantizer. It just doesn't really seem to do anything. But if I twiddle this knob, it is doing something. Well, bloody hell. But the problem with the LS1 is it's not particularly accurate because it's using your fudgy fingers. So as I say, I tried this while I was doing the patch and just kind of couldn't get it straight away, so I didn't really have time to spend with it. So if I bring this other bit in, does that mean that'll both go on? You want to change, well, I mean, you can change the, so yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, that's kind of working, that's interesting. These are a little bit more playing with, getting more precise with, but that essentially does what we're saying. In terms of actual changing scale, you can do that as well, I think. So yeah, you probably can't see it, but over here, the lights are definitely changing to different scales. I mean, it's got all sorts of different scales you can go through. And I believe you can set up your own. I've now lost where it was. Like that, I think. Oh, I don't know. Doesn't really matter now because it's all coming apart. But so yeah, the Quad Quantizer has some options for both transposing and changing the scale by control voltage. So yes, it has those facilities. It's quite a powerful little thing. I've used different quantizers in the past. I use the microscale quite a bit here, just because it's really easy just to bang in a couple of buttons and it's then working around those notes. I like that a lot. With the Quad Quantizer, you've got this dialing in business, which is, you know, comprehensive, but it's just like, what do I want? I'd much rather just be able to turn on the notes that I want. And you can do that. You have a knob and you can step through and you can turn on a note and you can turn off a note and that kind of thing. You can absolutely do that, but it's not as quick or as instant as just pressing some buttons to make that happen. So the 4-channelness of it and its ability to transpose, as we've just discovered, those things are awesome. The user interface is not awesome, but is okay, and I'm persevering with it. I think it's a very, very useful thing to have in my rack. Top answer, top question. Is that changing key or just an offset? I think it does all of that. Is there time for another beer? Maybe. I mean, I'm happy to keep talking, essentially, if you have things to ask. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So, one of the things which is one of the reasons I'm taking this patch apart. Do I have travel cases when transporting your stuff to meets, etc.? Yeah. Alshuria has a bag for a double rack brute style thing, which is a brilliant thing. The bag is excellent. I can show you. Yeah, this is all one of the reasons why I went for these cases. You know, the case, it folds down, the top folds onto here. You put these sides up here, which stop it from crushing into itself. Put that down, then you pick the whole thing up and it goes into this bag here, which is excellent. And there's got 2 wooden sides, these bits here that hopefully you can see, and the sort of the middle part of the case, you can see what I'm pointing at here, that sort of handle bit, that bit sits on here, so it doesn't actually go in the case and sit on the floor. It goes in the case and hangs on both sides, on here and one on the other side, which is really good. So when you're putting it down on the floor, you're not thinking about it bashing into anything. It's kind of just suspended enough so that it goes down and all the weight is on these brackets here as opposed to on the front of your modular, which is brilliant. It zips up tight. It's heavy to carry, but not too heavy. It's got extra, you know, bits for ballast and stuff. It's got some pockets for your power supply. It's brilliant, totally brilliant. I mean, if I wasn't doing that, then I'd be using, you know, a case like this one up here. Oh, look, I can show you the A bit like that, a bit like that. If I can focus that in. Sorry. A bit like that. Can you see this is the original prototype of the motion meter? Let's see whether you can see that. What can't I see? Over here? There we go, there we go. That one there. There you go. Black knobs. Black knobs. I need a camera person. Black knobs, there you go. This one here. That's the original motion meter. The one I've got is a version 2, and there will be a version 3 because it's not quite right yet. Not quite right. Yeah, the orange case is nice, but it's just not quite big enough. It's really nice, but in terms of being big enough to focus on my, there we go, on my beard, it's just not quite big enough. It's kind of like my secondary case, and stuff I want to use, which I'm not currently using, is all in there. Various reasons. So this case being big enough to actually do a gig, yes. I mean, any case is big enough to do a gig, really. But to put in, as I did with this patch, 4 levels, one, 2, 3, and then percussion, sort of 4 levels of interest. This is what I needed. I mean, there's plenty in here I didn't use. I only used one channel of the Veils, for instance. I only used one channel of that VCA because this has got a VCA built in. That voice has got a VCA built in. Didn't use the Batumi at all. I used a bit of the DivKid Oct. Didn't use the Surface in this one. I usually always use the Surface, but did not use it. Didn't use the Microscale. Didn't use the Tubatech. So, you know, and there's got a big gap here. So I didn't use everything that was in the case, but it felt like there was enough there. The only thing missing from me was some kind of key change, something else to do in that regard, which I've now discovered I could potentially do with a quad quantizer. I just need to get that. I need to get that right. Have I sorted the mixer bleed? I don't think I've done anything as such, Steve. I don't remember the mixer bleed. I haven't noticed it. Maybe I've just ignored it. What I haven't done yet, I haven't fixed the second send return, because that, I think, was the problem. I think the second send return is not quite right somehow. It's either too noisy. Maybe that is where the bleed was coming in, because I've tried using that a few times, but it's just noise and stuff coming off it. So I've ignored it, and I mean to just take it apart and give it a bit of a magic blow. I don't know. Hey Synth Addict, how you doing? Hi Stephen. But yeah, it's a good question, Steve. Did you hear Sam's explanation about my out of timedness? Did you see that? It's further up in the chat. Look, my no computer was telling us about the fact that when you push the resonance on the filter Gura, it goes a bit weird, and that is one of the things it goes a bit weird on. It sort of pushes itself out of itself. So that might be the reason rather than the reset reason. So that's interesting, because it was very interesting listening back to the recording that I did, in that it was there, it was on the beat, it was there, and then it was just slightly off, and then it was there, and it's because I was playing with the resonance and pushing that too far. It sort of breaks the waveform, so it goes past itself, something like that. Anyway, it's further up in the chat. He threw that in. Send return on your hex mix is unacceptable. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's funny because the signal routing, audio signal routing in Eurorack is a complete nightmare. What were we thinking? We're using these flipping little mini jacks. I mean, honestly, they're not even gold plated or oxygen free. I don't know, are they? But the point is that usually as audio sound professionals, we tend to use balanced cables and nice cables and properly shielded cables. Not all this bollocks. What are we doing? I mean, what do we expect? We've got all our sound, all our precious sound running through the crappiest cables ever invented, and we wonder why it's a bit noisy and bleedy in places. You know, it just kind of is. And that's something that we just have to sort of live with, I think, to some degree. Although, I mean, you know, with high-priced bits of gear, it shouldn't be that way. And You know, I think there's other things that perhaps we can be doing. For instance, I definitely know that some things pick up other things. Like I've got something that's not connected to anything. It's just doing its cycle and it's doing something. Something else will pick it up. I mean, it's probably sucking something out of the power, which then something else is noticing. I've seen that happen a few times where something is reacting to another module that's not plugged into. How are you supposed to work that out? I do not know. I do not know. So yeah, I'll experiment with the filter grrr a bit more to see if I can nail down exactly what when it is that occurs, so I know when it's going to happen, so that I can just manage that better. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Why just the send return? Why just the send and return though on 2 mixers? What? Yeah, no, I don't know. I can use 3.5mm shielded cables. Can I? You do. I mean, are they different to these? How do you know? I mean, these are obviously got a bit of shielding in it, yeah, because that's how cables work. But is there a particularly posh cables you can use? Do you mean, Mr. Madcap? Yeah. Anyway, so what I was getting to, is the fact that I have ordered the Busy Circuits ASQ1, I think it is, because I saw it at Superbooth, thought that's fantastic. That's brilliant, because it's an SH101 sequencer. Now, I've got an MS1 over here. MS101, this fella. See, look, I got like the original. This is original vintage classic Behringer with the MS101 on it. Not many of those around, you know. This is worth a flipping fortune. Worth a fortune, that is. Anyway, what I'm saying is the sequencer on that fella, and also it's really like sequencer on the 303, I think, more or less, is that you just bash in a bunch of notes. You don't like hit record and then play something nice and have that play back. No, you put it under step record and you go note, 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 rest, note, note, rest, rest, note, note, tie, note, and then press play, and it's nothing like what you thought it was going to be like. And that is what the ASQ1 is, which is awesome. I love that kind of sequencer. It's just simple. I just like being able to go. I just like being able to go ding, 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 boom, and off you go. And it has 2 channels of that, and of course it's ready quantized because you're putting in notes, because it has like a mechanical keyboard, clacky keyboard input thing that's shaped like a piano keyboard. Excuse me. So you just tap in the notes that you want it to be. So you've got 2 channels of CV gate of that. So I could be running the bassline and something else. You know, rather than using the arpeggiator here, I could be using that to run the Descartes voice. 2 things running completely sequenced nicely of different lengths, of different timings. And then you've also got 4 channels of drum programming as well. Very simple. You've just got 8 notes running around and you turn things on and off. Very, very simple pattern playing. So I could potentially ditch the EuroPie, which has been so nice to me, and the mutes, because it could also do muting. I could ditch, what was my other sequencer? Well, I could perhaps get rid of the varigate finally, potentially, although it's still, I don't know, it's still that useful thing. Not sure at the moment. It was a bit of an impulse buy, because I thought, yes, I love that thing, I've got to have it. So maybe it's about, I think it's 32 HP, which is wider than it really should be. But that's what it is, and that's kind of this much, isn't it? It's kind of, is that about this much? When can you see that? That's what I was asking, is because this here thing here, this my 1U strange thing here is about 24 HP. So it's going to be bigger than that. So it's quite a chunky module. I don't know that I'm going to be able to fit it in. But I like it. You know, 2 channels of melody, 4 channels of drums. I'd probably have my wave phonics going anyway, and my Turing machine. That's 4 melody lines. two of which can be pretty complex. Just got the 8 notes going around on the wave phonics, randomness from the touring. That sounds like a good combination to me. But it's never going to be, is it? I mean, you know, that suggests that there's a right answer to the question of, which sequencer should I use? No, you see, it will just be another sequencer that I'll use for a bit, and then I'll move on to something else. Because that's my bag, man. But, you know, on this occasion, I'm putting my own money into it. You know, it was me buying it, not anything else. Am I still building the Decard Dream? Yes, I'm still building the Decard Dream. It's over there in pieces. It's purely time at the moment. I've got a lot of people wanting videos just now, and a lot of people wanting writing just now. So I'm a little bit up to my ears in stuff, which is one of the reasons I'm doing this as a live stream rather than putting it together as a video, because I can actually do this without having to think about things too hard. I think I might have the other beer. But the what am I talking about? I don't know. Whatever the point was, yes, it's purely just having time to sit down and do that. I hope to find some, but the summer holidays have been it's quite tricky. There's a lot to do. I've got a lot of on-off holidays or ways or doing things with the kids and days and childcare and having to look after things, trying to get some work done, trying to keep my head above water. So, you know, the Decard's Dream is a luxurious thing to solder, and luxury is not something that I have the space for just now. But I will honestly, I'm planning very, very hard to get to it. It's in the 10-year plan, yeah. Yeah, Quirkism. I was looking into that actually when I was writing up about the ASQ one, the price, 300 quid. I looked at all other sequencers around it, and they're all about the same price. I mean, for an interesting sequencer. You can get an SQ1, Korg SQ1, Steve uses those, a pair of those, get those for like 60 quid, 60, 70 quid, a pop, easy, that's fine. But if you're looking at something like the Variegate 4 Plus, like the Korg SQ1, no, SQ64, like the Black sequencer, like the Bloom, like the Stochastic Inspiration Generator, you know, other things that have multi-channels of sequencing in them, £300, around about £300 seems to be the going rate for a Eurorack sequencer. So from my initial thought of, oh, that's a little expensive, is actually not. It's comparative, I would say. You know, cheaper hardware versions are available, I should add, but it's, you know, it seems to be about right. So yeah, I feel it's about right. Ken, yes, no, the Noise and SNH module is ready to go, I believe. It wasn't in Thonk when I checked at the end of before the weekend, so I wasn't going to do it this Wednesday. I kind of like to leave it until the module gets available at Thonk so that people get a chance to buy it. So it won't be this week, it will be the week after. I think I'm getting that. I'm managing to crowbar that in. I think I've blanked it off on the calendar. So not this week, the Wednesday, Thursday after, I'll be doing that. £205 for SQ64, is it? Okay, fair enough. But as I say, Eurorack tend to be around 300 quid. I did look, honestly, so maybe I was wrong about the SQ64, but I was certainly right about some other ones. If you go to somewhere like Rubber Dub or something, put in sequencers, you know, it's all there. You will see. Microscales has a 128-step SH101 style sequencer. Good for them. Woohoo! Does it have clackety keys? I mean, the thing that seems to be most like to me is a stepper acid, I thought. It seemed to be on that sort of vibe. I mean, the stepper acid is much more, you know, catered for doing 303 bass lines, but it felt like a very similar idea. The ASQ1 seemed to be a simplified version. It didn't have quite the the depth or level of the stepper acid, which is quite a phenomenal module, and one that I quite fancy getting. It's just too big. It's like too much HP for one track of really kick-ass sequencing. But the ASQ ones just seem to be simpler, multi-channel. I like the mechanical keys. I like the drum machine bit built in. You know, it's sorting out a lot of problems. I have a microscales. Do I? Well, you know me, Steve, I've got so much stuff now, I have no clue. I have no clue what you mean by that. But there we go. I probably do. Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know what you mean. You've lost me. Anyway. So yes, Ken, back to that. The Erica Synths noise module, yeah, I'll do a week on Wednesday, is the plan. I have, oh yeah, talking of clackety keys. This lovely thing turned up. This is turning into a general Molten chat. I'm sorry about that. So the patch breakdown, I think, is pretty much over. So you can shuffle off now if that was the bit you're interested in. But you know, just chewing the fat while I'm drinking a bit more of a beer. I had this thing come through. Now, isn't that delightful? What a fun looking thing. Listen to those keys. Wow, a bit of a knob there. More keys. What the heck is it, I hear you say? This is a MIDI track. And what this is it's a prototype. I mean, you can tell it's a bit prototypey, I think. But no, it's a I think he is producing these for people now. It's just you know, it's very much a home-brewed boutique offering. And what this is about is this is a polyphonic MIDI sequencer, multi-channel polyphonic MIDI sequencer, which is quite interesting because there aren't many hardware one of those about. Now I know you can say, oh yeah, but the Arturia, this, that, and the other, they all do those sorts of things. Yeah, maybe so, but this one feels quite unique in its approach. It uses very much like an audio looper style of MIDI sequencing, so you layer up stuff, and it's very much was designed because the guy behind it found that other sequencers just didn't seem to do enough. The polyphonic side of sequencers just seemed to be very lacking. You tend to find polyphonic sequencers within a polyphonic synthesizer, and for doing their own stuff, they tend to be a bit basic and only focused on that. So this brings it out of the synth and puts it down and lets you run multiple synths through the same single sequencer. How that all works, I don't know, but I'll definitely going to give it a go. So that's quite exciting. Otherwise, I keep finding boxes of stuff about the place. Look, let's see here, look. This is a fabulous box of stuff from Black Noise, which I haven't got around to doing yet. And this is a whole load of kits in here. It's just fantastic. I mean, some of these I think are just PCBs, but I'll definitely want to get into some of this business in here. Awesome. So, you know, if you are a boutique maker of modular synthesizers who has sent me something and I hope that I'll make a fantastic video on it, I will. It just takes a bit of time, and feel free to remind me. It's okay. I don't get annoyed by people reminding me, because I do get stuff left around the place. Right over here, there's another box. It's mostly DIY stuff because it's that really takes the time. This is a whole load of Pulp Logic 1U, which is going to be part of my my awesome 1U video, which I'm doing sometime in the future. So that's exciting. So, you know, stuff like that, man. Stuff like that. Lots of it. Knocking around the place. Making the place untidy. Sorry, somebody said something. My EMOM track was possibly the best to date. Thank you very much, Prometheus guy. That's very nice. No, I don't tend to take that many drugs as it goes. I'm quite I'm quite a lightweight when it comes to illegal substances. The weird thing is that I quite like the sound of it sober, you know, which I think that's important. Will Molten Modular be bringing out a clackety key module at some point? I don't know. I hadn't really considered that. In some ways I feel mechanical keys have a weakness to them, perhaps that might not be ideal. I don't know, it depends what you're doing with it, I suppose. It just takes up a lot of space, that's the thing. I'm still quite disturbed by the size of the ASQ1. But we'll see. Maybe it's going to have to go into my orange case. I mean, whatever it is, it doesn't match anything else that I've got, that's for sure. But hey, what can we do? Oh, right, yeah. Sorry, the micro scale. Yeah, okay, sorry. It's because obviously it's spelt with a Y. You know, it's a Y scale. Yeah, okay, got you. All right, I'm with you. Sorry, I just didn't recognize the words spelt out in full microscale. Of course, yes, no, of course that makes sense. What was the question again? What was the question? You have a microscales. Yeah, microscale has a 128 SH101 style sequencer. Does it? How does it? No. Or was it a question? Were you asking me a question? Does it have? No. I don't know who's the more confused now. But no. The microscale, to my knowledge, has no sequencer involved. It might do. I don't know, because I haven't gotten to the bottom of that one either. I just use it for what I use it for, like most stuff. So, no, right, I'm still well confused. Hi, Moog. Oh, you've just dropped in to tell us that scales can be a sequencer. Well, fancy that. Fancy that. Not the microscale. Right, I think we're just all now driving each other crazy. I think that's the point. Right, well, maybe we'll bring this to a close then. I think that's probably long enough talking about this particular setup. So, I am currently working on, just to let you know, if that's useful, currently working on this fella here. I'm about a month late for the Moog Mavis, but there we go. So I'm writing or recording a video all about this. The interesting thing is that I'm doing it from the perspective of, would you have this or something else? Because, I mean, the amount of love that was poured out over this is quite extraordinary. Quite extraordinary. Because it's, you know, it's not a bad synth. It's not a bad synth, but, you know, there are other synths. It's not as if that this is innovative in any particular way. It's just that it has Moog on the front and it costs less than the Mother 32. You know, I think we need more than that to make a synth awesome. Now, that's not to say this is not an awesome synthesizer. Milo Melodies in particular has done a fantastic video on this, which is just like, that's extraordinary. That's just simply breathtaking, which is great. But for the price and features of this, there's other things that you can get. Yeah, the East Beast, exactly. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And so I thought I'd do a video comparing the two, of that and the West Pest as well, and those sorts of things. Because I think it's something that people often ask, you know, which should I get? Should I get this or should I get that? And in most respects, the easy answer is it doesn't really matter. You know, get the synth and you'll enjoy it. You know, that's the way forward. And the Moog Mavis is certainly a great little synth. It's good fun, sounds great, good feature set, good interesting things to do with patching. Great. It's just that it's sort of 150 quid more than other little synths which do more. thought the Mavis was more like 380, 379 was the Mavis, whereas East Beast is like 219. That was the price I looked at last. So anyway, so there's about 100 quid, if not more, if not less, difference between them, and that seems a lot considering the feature set and the sound that you're getting. Both synths are great, but but you know, I think people would appreciate a proper comparison with something else, because if you see something in isolation, it's always going to be great. This is a great thing in isolation, and the Moog is absolutely great, and there's lots of wonderful people who've done wonderful videos on how wonderful the Mavis is, and I don't want to take anything away from that. I just want to point out that there are other things out there which are cheaper and probably better. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Do you see what I'm trying to get to? Do you see that line I'm trying to walk? And it's been really interesting because I'm trying to shoot this video, and I've done a couple of bits of it now, just haven't had time to finish it, and I keep sort of tripping myself up because it's like, oh, I don't want to just sit here and slag this off because there's nothing wrong with it, and then I play a bit with it in order to demonstrate a few bits and go, well, actually this is a fantastic synth, I'm having such a great time doing this, but this one is better than it, but this is great also, but then this is good, but then this is great, and then this is a lot of fun, so I can understand why people like it. But then this is also good. You just see what I mean? Go around in circles. But I hopefully doing a bit of a comparison between, and then making a bunch of music with the Moog, the East, West, Pest thing, and also the Dysmetria, this fella, all these little desktop synths running together, I thought would be nice. So that's what I'm going to do. And I just needed to, what sequencers was I going to use in the end? Because that got complicated. So I kind of need four channels of sequencing. I was going to use the SQ64, but then that only has 3 channels plus the drums, so that's not really the suitable answer. So I think I'm going to have to go with this fella, which is annoying because it means I've got to relearn it because I haven't used it in ages. So I'm going to have to work out how that all works again. Oh, darn it. So I don't look like an idiot when I'm doing the demo. Yeah, as Kevin says, get them both. Yeah, the dysphonia is a great little thing. It's a surprise every time I use it. Oh, your dysphonia. Yes, that too, although that's in another box out of the way at the minute. Right, okay. Now, as Mr. Moog at the top says, I could obviously compare it to a Crave. I mean, for heaven's sake, for the price, I could compare it to the Model D, from Behringer. But I don't want to do that because that would cause just too much annoying commentary. So I think avoiding Behringer altogether is the best course of action if I'm going to do a comparative video. I'm sure the Crave is great because it's based on Mother 32, etc, etc, and I just don't want to have those kinds of conversations. I would much rather compare the Mavis to another company of repute that makes good stuff, that's of high quality, and no one has an axe to grind with them. Do you see what I mean? That they're making their own individually impressive, innovative synthesizers. I think that's the better way to go, rather than trying to compare it with anything Behringer. I think that would be silly. Yeah, I think the East Beast is a great little synth. Yeah, they really nailed it with that. Cool. Well, I seem to have more people now than I had earlier, which is very gratifying. But I think I'm going to need to take this beer to bed, otherwise I'm not going to make it there. So let's. If anyone has any more burning questions, we'll leave it there. Should I play you out with what I've got left? Did I discover something new that I was going to do? What was that? Oh, transposition. No, I can't do it because I've got the ARP here running the Deckard's voice, so that's going to be different. So Yeah. No, that's just not going to work right. I don't think. No, I don't think the no coast is the right comparison, because I mean the no coast is 500 quid, isn't it? That's a lot more expensive. It's a different beast. You know. So yeah, no, I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm just halfway through the video when I had to do this and clear it all to one side, so it's all stuffed over here now. I've got to bring it all back together and finish that video off. Yes. And then there's lots more to do. Lots more to do. But yeah, it was a fun jam. Very fun patch. It's going to be interesting to see how I adjust it after that one. Where I go now. And how I'm going to fit the ASQ1 in. Does the Aurora stay? I don't know. I mean, I need to focus on that because I have to write a review of it. So... interesting. We shall see. Anyway, good of you to come. Thank you very much for stopping by and having a look in. It was well, useful. Moving on. I hope that was useful. I hope looking at the patch was useful. I hope showing you what I did was helpful in one way or another. I don't know. Who knows? We're just all messing with this game, having a bit of a play. So I will leave it at that. Thanks very much. Go make some tunes. Always good. Go and perform. Live performance. Go do that. Always good. Just trying to find my button on the outro. No, that's not it.